G'day everyone, Laura Picardi here, founder of Uppy and now author of Unfaked. So I wanted to do a quick video because since I posted yesterday about finally sending my book to the printers, I've had a lot of people asking me, how did I get to this point? And I figured it's much easier for me to just talk to you than write down a few little random tips in text. So here I am. So the first thing that I found super valuable in my journey to writing my book was when I did, about 3.5 years ago, I was part of a business program called KPI, they're now called Dent. And as part of that, we did a 30,000 word challenge, which meant that we had to write 30,000 words of our book in 30 days. Now, that was so valuable because it taught me how to write and not be perfect. Now, as someone who is, I like to think, a recovering perfectionist now, that was unbelievably helpful because I often would get paralyzed from perfection and then actually not get anything done. So what this taught me was to just brain dump. Don't worry if it's not exactly how you want it to be right now. Just get the things out of your brain and onto the page. That's what an editor is for. They're there to help you to make it make sense. So that, I think, is something that stops a lot of people is, you know, we can agonize over a sentence for hours and hours and hours, but really that doesn't matter. The key is just getting everything out of here and onto the page. So that would be my first piece of advice, is set yourself a little challenge. Maybe it is a 30,000 word challenge. Maybe you do it for 2 weeks and you say, I'm going to write 1,000 words for 2 weeks. Commit to it and make sure it gets done no matter what. And just start building that habit, because that's all this is, right? You've never written a book before. So you need to build the habit of writing a book. So I found that was an amazing way to do that. Now, I realized, having started to think about what I'm going to say in this video, that I don't even know what happened to those 30,000 words. I've literally never seen them again. Now, that was a bit of an error on my point because that would have been a massive part of my book done. But what I hadn't done before I did that was really create a plan and a strategy. So that brings me on to tip number 2, is try and set yourself up before you get started so that you really understand the book. So what I mean by that is, first of all, who is it that you're writing for? So try and understand who your target audience is, but understand them intimately. Now, if you've got your own business, I'm sure you've done this with your ideal client, right? We need to understand who they are if we can actually reach them properly and give them what they need. So it's exactly the same for the book. So, you know, not just understanding who they are, what their age range is, but understanding things like, what are their fears? What are their problems? What are their challenges? What do they love? What lights them up? Like, really understand as much as you can about that person so that then you can write specifically to them. And with that, as I said about the ideal client, it's really about understanding what their problems are. Why do they even want to read your book? What's that one question that they've got going round and round in their head, and they're thinking, God, if only someone could tell me how to solve that. If you can figure out that question, then you're going to nail your book. So once you know all of those things, the most important thing is to keep them in mind all of the time while you're writing. So who am I writing for? What are the problems that I'm solving and how am I solving them? So always writing with those things in mind will make sure that your book always stays on point. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit sweaty. It's really hot out here today. So what's next? Next, talking of figuring stuff out, is your why. So why are you writing it? That's a really important one, because it helps to keep you going when you really don't want to keep going, when the fear comes in, when the doubt comes in. Knowing what your higher purpose is for writing your book is really freaking helpful, because the fear will come and the doubts will come, possibly every single day. So you need to keep that long term, as I say, that higher purpose in mind so that you can ride out the fears and the doubts. So for me, my why, my purpose is because I believe I've got an unbelievably important message to share. And I feel like if I don't, I'm actually doing a disservice, because I've got all this cool stuff in my brain, stuff that I know works because I've done it for me and my clients. So why wouldn't I tell people about that? And why would I prevent people from hearing it just because of my own personal shit. So that really helped me going, really helped to keep me going. Next is get an accountability buddy or a writing buddy. So statistically, we are 80 to 90% more likely to achieve what we want if we've got someone keeping us specifically accountable. So having someone there asking, how have you gone? Have you done your 1,000 words today? You know, can I give you any feedback? What are you stuck on? Do you just need a little bum tap, or do you need a kick up the bum? Having someone there on the journey with you, which makes it a hell of a lot more fun, but also having someone there that can really keep you accountable to doing what you need to do is, again, super invaluable. And talking of that, one of the things that was definitely a catalyst for me to actually get to this point was to get a publishing company on board with me. So I self-published, so I didn't go out and get a publisher. Wouldn't that have been nice? Well, I don't actually know, because I had complete control over my book. But anyway, I decided that this was happening. So just backtrack a bit. I started writing my book about 3 years ago, and I wrote, after the 30,000 words, I then wrote 10,000 words, and then I kind of let the fear and the doubts get in the way. My book is a bit of a different concept. It's a story. It's not a standard business book. And I had lots of people telling me, oh, that's really difficult to do. A lot of people have tried and they've not done it very well. And I let that stop me because I was worried that I was going to fail. So I didn't write anymore for about 2 years. And then eventually I just went, no, bugger it. I need to write this book. So once I'd made that decision, I then found a company to help me with the publishing, the whole publishing process. And that was like the ultimate accountability, because I asked them to set deadlines with me. I knew that I had people waiting for stuff, so I knew that I had to get it done. And that really was the final push that I needed. Once I'd got over that fear, over that doubt, and just kept reminding myself, people need to hear this, and I want them to hear this in this way. I don't want them to hear it in another way. And then having the people there to support and guide me, invaluable. So I hope that's helpful. I've talked for quite a long time, more than I intended, but I could probably go on and on and on. So if you've been thinking about writing a book, my advice is just start writing. Just let it go wherever it needs to go. And incidentally, it actually helped me refine my messaging and my program and how I talk to my clients even more in my business, because I was literally defining everything step by step and really getting it out of my brain. So, you know, there's more to this than just writing a book. It helps you to deliver what you're delivering in a much more powerful way. So that's my last piece of advice. Just start writing. Let me know if you've got any questions or any comments, and let's see how the rest of the journey goes. Thanks, guys.